Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CFL Dynasty League podcast, the podcast where we make the league more fun and more engaging by bringing you the news that you crave. I'm your host and commissioner, Steve. Great to be here with you looking into Week 5. Some shakeups last week around the league. Segment for you. The Commish's Corner making its debut on the Week 5 podcast. Hope you enjoy the conversation with our first of what we hope to be many guests this year. That's coming up. But before that, we got some reviews and previews to get to. We're going to try and speed through them this week. Let's kick it off. In the books, let's have a look at where we got. First game. This was cross-divisional play. We had the Captains taking on Hildy. Captains coming in after a tough defeat the week before. But thanks to another great performance by Justin Herbert, they were able to squeak this one out over Hildy, 150 to 141. Mike Evans, big numbers on his return to the lineup after a suspension as well. Over on Hildy's side, Rashad Penny and Clyde Edwards-Helaire both had monster games, but some disappointment from the wide receiver room on Hildy's side. And Kyle Pitts, OMG, I don't know. We'll see. Does he have to make a move for another tight end? Pitts just not living up to the building. Hildy down to 1-3. The Captains back up on top of the Canadian division at 3-1. Looking over to Nav, taking on his cousin, Mike's daddy, Ali Khan. This was a lopsided affair. I guess when it comes to family, loving family, it's just not in the case of fantasy football. Mike's daddy pummeling Nav by a score of 163 to 102. Josh Allen, sure, him and Stephon Diggs combined for 30-some points, pretty average. Jared Goff, though, that was a story. Anytime you hear a Lions or a Seahawks player, in this review, you're going to know they went off last week. Minus 1.2 points. You're not getting away without hearing that, Alicon. Melvin Gordon, minus 1.2 points. Yikes, that running room is in a bad way. But Trevor Lawrence, no good. Cam Akers, no good. Javonte Williams, that's a tough injury. Nav had some duds all over the place one way or another. 100 points is never going to win you a week. Mike's daddy, up to even, 2-2. Nav down to 2-2. Things starting to balance themselves out. Move over to Rhinos versus Italian Stallions. Snooze fest. Barely breaking 100 points was the Italian Stallions, but it was good enough for the win. Tua, the unfortunate game again, 2.9 points. Had to be replaced in that one. His head is not right. A couple of duds from McLaurin and Smith on the wide receiver side for Stu too. But Tyreek Hill got it done. Zach Wilson, pretty average, 20 points, but it was enough to beat the Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers-led Rhinos, who only managed to put up 90 points themselves. J.K. Dobbins, 20 points, the lone bright spot. Gabe Davis, non-existent. Brandon Ayuk, down week. And Mark Andrews, 3.5 points only after really just pacing the tight ends for the season. Rhinos, bottom of the standings, sitting at 1-3. Italian Stallions up to 500, 2-2. Fetty Salsas were taking on James. This one looked to be in Fetty's favor. But Chase Edmonds, tough start, only 9 points. Alvin Kamara, what? He started. He didn't play. Oh no, come on, man. Fetty, what are you doing? Get your roster together. Have a look at who's playing and who's not. The 1.7 points from Trubisky didn't help at all. Freddie only managed 141 points. Cooper Rush and Matt Ryan, pretty good week for James. McCaffrey finally almost seeing a breakout from him, but TJ Hawkinson, 38.9 points, propelling James to the 154 total and the win. Fetty Salsas falling to 1-3, sharing the bottom of the Canadian division with the Rhinos. James, 2-2, looking to improve. White Russians, Gronks. This was a smash fest as well. White Russians putting Gronks in their place. We had Miles Sanders go off for almost 30 points in this one. Gronks, Matthew Stafford, 6 points. Yikes. Jonathan Taylor, 2.8 points. The big acquisition. JT, they traded their firstborn, as you'll hear later in the podcast. And he gave him less than 3 points. 166 for White Russians, 114 for Gronks. Maybe White Russians are turning things around. They're back to 2-2. Gronks falling to 3-1 and giving up first place in the standings to these guys. Hanging with Hernandez, you'll hear more from them, or from half of them on the pod later today. They beat Ev narrowly, 141 to 130. It was good enough, though. They're on top of the American division now. Ev back down to 2-2. Like I said, we'll get into this matchup a little bit later in the show, but those were your matchups from last week. That has been the fantasy review. How do things shake out after last week? Well, hanging with Hernandez, now leading the American division, 3-1, tied with Gronks, but better on points for Mike's daddy, James, Italian Stallions, all at 2-2. Hildy rounding out the American division at a 1-3 record. On the Canadian side, as you heard, captains topped the division last week after going to 3-1. Nav, White Russians, and Nav all tied at 2-2. Fetty and Rhinos down at 1-3. All right, in keeping with the quick hitting segment of this week's episode, let's get into the roster watch. A couple of acquisitions on the waiver wire, maybe some of detail. Mike Boone picked up by Nav, probably to offset the Javonte Williams injury. $75 for Mike Boone. Teddy Bridgewater going to the Italian Stallions. Again, we see some covering their loss. That's an injury-related loss with the backup. So Teddy Bridgewater, the backup for Tua, going to the Italian Stallions for $60. And Hildy going for the hot-handed Will Disley, leading tight end for the Seattle Seahawks, $50 on the cheap. I think he's got 3 touchdowns in 4 games. That is pretty good. Into the Commish's locks of the week. Let's have a look at how we did last week. Well, Tua got hurt, so the Miami money line, we're going to throw that one out. I'm saying it doesn't count. Don't like it. Hopefully you followed our advice on that. The spread pick, oh, so close. The Bills only by 3, needed 3.5 to cover. And the over-under, well, Mariota ruined it for the Falcons, but we did hit the Jags-Eagles. So all in all, a pretty good week. Looking on to this week, what do we have for you? Well, how about the spread of the week? Chargers, -2.5 on the road to the Browns. I don't mind -2.5 for the Chargers. They look to be finally putting on a bit of a show. Money line of the week, well, Titans, 130. That's a -130 on the road to the Commanders. That is your money line of the week. Couple of good risky picks here. The Cowboys, a +205 on the road to the Rams. Cowboys defense looking like they might be able to put up a stop against Stafford, and the Bengals +150 on the road to the Ravens. Those are your risky picks, but we hit both of them last week, so you might want to look into those. The spread of the week. Here we go. Raiders and Chiefs. Over 51. Well, what do we talk about? If you're not betting the over, you might as well not be betting at all. Let's take it over 51 on the Raiders-Chiefs game. All right. Wrap up the main part of the pod here. Again, going quick this week with a little bonus segment, and we might play around with the editing in the coming weeks depending on how well the Commish's Corner is received, but we're going to run through the previews of the week. First game on the docket here, the game of the week, hanging with Hernandez at James. James and hanging with Hernandez coming off of the wins last week, so somebody's going to have their little mini run here halted. We're going to get into this one a little bit later, but the highlights are quarterback change for hanging with Hernandez, and can the running back room of Barkley, Eckler, and Jones make up the difference? James, unfortunately, Cordero Patterson out for quite some time. That is a tough one. We'll see. Can Matt Ryan? Well, if you watch the Thursday game, that didn't go over so well. But we'll see if he can bounce back with the rest of his roster. But like I said, more on that to come. Let's move on. Gronks visiting Italian Stallions. We're back to the divisional matchups here. On the Gronk side, hey, we know Jonathan Taylor let them down. Now he was hurt, didn't get a chance to play this week. So in comes Nick Chubb, Leonard Fournette, Breece Hall. Running back room, you got to say it's still a strength for these guys. I guess this is the week we see if their depth will really pay off. Lamar Jackson, Matthew Stafford should probably get some decent points from the quarterback room too. Italian Stallions looking to run out the newly acquired Teddy Bridgewater. He's got Zeke in there too. He might be in tough this week as well. Tyreek Hill, heard some injury rumors about him. Who knows if he's going to play. So Italian Stallions right now projected 131 against Gronk's 148. I like Gronk's in this one. You got to look for them to take it by at least 15 on the way to the win. Stu, I picked against you again. You're welcome. Moving on to Mike's Daddy at Hildy. This is a rematch by which Mike's Daddy took the first game by 21 points. So Hildy looking for a little bit of revenge. I don't know that he's going to find it here. 20-point underdog. Andy Dalton going again for the Saints, it looks like, with Jameis still on the shelf. Can he get another big performance from Rashad Penny or maybe a bounce back from Jamar Chase? Big pickup of Will Dissly there at the tight end position. We talked about that. Don't think it's going to be enough. Ali Khan coming back with Josh Allen, and maybe Jared Goff can have another big game. The wide receivers will definitely make up for the lack of depth and points coming from the running back position. Double tight end position as well. More and more people going with the tight end premium. 2 tight end set. We got Kelsey and Njoku squaring off. It's projected to be almost a 20-point spread. Look for Mike's Daddy to cover this one, going 2-3-2. Moving on to the Canadian division, we have the Captains looking to take on Nav and get some revenge for the Week 3 defeat, where the Captains were bullied by 65 points. We'll see if Herbert can keep his hot streak going. The questions surrounding Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, both a little banged up. Outlook not too good for Najee against the matchup this week too. And Khalil Herbert, I think he's got to go back on the bench here with Montgomery maybe looking to suit up. Some tough decisions on the captain's side. Nav looking to overcome that unfortunate injury to Javonte Williams last week. He's rolling out Young Ho Koo as well in that blockbuster deal that went down last week. So can Koo come to bite the captains back in the butt? This one projected Nav by 6 points now, looking at the total lineup projections here. He's relying on Tony Pollard and Antonio Gibson in the running back room. I don't think that, combined with London and Olave, the rookies at the wide receiver position, going out on a limb here, calling the captains to take this one. They're going to beat the 6-point projected spread here and look for the captains to take this one in a tight scoring affair. Rhinos and White Russians, the next matchup here. Is this the week the Rhinos finally get some points from the quarterback position? Tough outlook on the running back room here too, with Connor and Dobbins, both a little banged up, both in tough matchups. Gabe Davis, same kind of story here. Look for a big rebound from Mark Andrews, though, at the tight end position. Rhinos projected out of 142. They're underdogs here by almost 7 points. White Russians coming in at nearly 150. Couple of bright spots in this lineup. Kyler Murray looks like he can do Kyler Murray things this year. He's hasn't looked pretty, but he's getting the job done, putting some points up. And Derrick Henry, we talked about, I think he is back. Miles Sanders having a good year too. Should be enough to power White Russian. Look for them to cover the 7 points here and take the victory. Last game in the Canadian division is Fetty Salsas taking on Ev. Quarterback shootout here, potentially. Mahomes versus Brady. Cousins and Garoppolo, the other two quarterbacks in this matchup here. Freddie running out Mahomes and Garoppolo. Don't know if Alvin Kamara is going to make it into Freddie's lineup here and put another 0 up 3 times. Will we see that? Well, let's hope not. He is projected to win by 3 points. So if he keeps the duds out of his lineup, Marquise Brown, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, those 3 wide receivers should be enough to take Freddy Salsas to the victory here. Hey, who knows? Ev's been getting some performances out of James Robinson. Singletary's had a good year so far. We got Conklin and Kittle running the double tight end set for Ev, and I think that is where he's going to miss out on some points. Kittle's been such a wild card this year. Freddie spread +3. I like it. Look for Freddie to take this in more of a blowout than it shows on paper. Fetty Salsas taking this one by 10 points. That has been the fantasy preview. A little bit rushed again, as we talked about, because we have a new segment, the Commish's Corner. Had a lot of fun doing this. Hope you guys like it. We'll get it a little more condensed and streamlined as we go through the season here. But for our first guest, I think it was a good one. I hope you guys enjoy. We'll talk to you next week. All right, now we're going to move into a new segment for the podcast. Super excited this week for the Commish's Corner, where we're going to sit down with guests every week, try and bring you guys a new take, so it's not just me and my opinions, even though they're always right. For the first segment of Commish's Corner on the CFL Dynasty League podcast, we welcome one half, if not 3/4, of Hanging with Hernandez, the 3-1 leaders in the American division, Mr. Michael Tank Fletcher. Mike, how you doing today?
Doing great, Steve. I want to say, first off, excited to be here. I know you got thousands, maybe millions of listeners, and it's just a true honor to be the first guest on this amazing podcast. I think we're going to cover a lot of ground today, and there's going to be some exciting talk, and can't wait to get started.
Hey, excellent. I think you took the words right out of my mouth. It's always exciting and engaging too. So, Hanging with Hernandez, we talk a little bit about. Well, we don't talk about it. I mean, it is, you guys take a lot of crap in the chat, rightfully so, right? You say some things, you kind of egg it on, but the bottom line is you have a trophy in your house right now. Why don't you tell us a little bit about last season, how that came to be?
Well, we do get a lot of shit, and I think a lot of it's deserved because when we come out hard, and last season we weren't sure at the beginning. Everyone said that we were out, and everyone said formerly Mike and Steve were going to take the championship. They said they had it, and everyone said they had it. And you know what? We just said, you know what? Let's wait to see what happens. Okay, let's get to playoffs. We were missing our big gun, Saquon Barkley, so that was scary. But then playoffs started rolling around. We made a big acquisition, Tyler Lockett, who ended up being a big player for us. And then Joe Burrow. What else do I need to say about him in last year? I mean, we've said in the chat multiple times, the guy's just a stud. He knows when his owners need him, and he came through, and couldn't be more grateful to have him on our team.
So that's great. That's a great segue into here because I do want to touch on Joe Burrow. You knew he was not going to do that, right? Like, there's no way you had projected that this was just going to be an average week for him, 24 points. Like, were you nervous thinking you were going to lose?
Yeah.
Because you probably should have, to be honest.
Well, I mean, that's the beauty of fantasy, though. Yeah, we're lying if we expect him to get that many points, but I thought he'd get around 25 to 30 points, and then with the other guys we had in our artillery, Devontae and Austin Eckler, those kind of guys. DJ Moore was killing it last year at the end of as well, I believe, and then with the addition of Lockett, I thought, hey, that would be enough to get us going. Baker.
That was a good pickup. Lockett figures Nav would have given away a talented player. He was really, really crippling his team last year to try and get into that championship, the playoff.
Yeah, well, if he's not under the age of 20, Nav's not interested, right? So
yeah, that's a great point. He had a horrible team last year, and it looks like it's not paying off for him this year too. So
no, who would have thought that getting old?
Okay, so fast forward, you got the trophy. You've done some questionable things with it. We really do need that cleaned. I'm serious, or else we have to buy a new one. You got the trophy. You've had it all off season going into this year. There was another shakeup. Let's talk about some of these acquisitions. Now, the first one, the Baker trade to Carolina. Having him now, you had that stack potential with DJ Moore, and he's just shit the bed coming right out, like crapped his pants. But you made a trade for Davis Mills. I want to hear about that too. You bolstered your running back room with Aaron Jones, and the wide receiver room kind of left the same, if I'm not mistaken. Not too many big name acquisitions.
Nothing fancy there.
You and Zach decided to not roster any good tight ends this year, so I want you to touch on that too. Let's start with Davis Mills. What was the impetus behind that questionable trade?
Questionable. We'll see, because you know what, he's, I think, QB 24 right now. I could be wrong. I was checking that earlier today. I could be wrong, but you know what? That's good enough for QB 2, which is for a super flex league. Not bad. And
he does have 6 more points than Baker this year. just for what
Yeah.
it's worth. Yeah,
And exactly. And you know what? Texans are going to be playing from behind a lot. And so they're going to be airing it out. They got the guy with the brain injury, Cooks there. So, as long as he's not completely dead on the field, they have a chance of getting some good touchdowns through him. And you know what? At $50, it was hard to say no. That was really a big thing for us was getting a good cheap super flex in there because we have a lot of money
sure.
in our running back room and in our receiver room, which is our bread and butter. And that bread and butter took us to a championship last year. So stick
You
with
know
that
what?
method.
50 bucks
And
for a starting quarterback here. You're right. I can't take that away. I'd like to chirp you about it, but I mean, he's not very good. But for 50 bucks, you can't really expect him to be. A little bit of insight. I want to go into the locker room here. Coaches speak before next week's matchup. Is Baker going to sit? Are you going with Davis Mills and Joe Burrow as your two starters?
Steve, I wish I could say I trust Baker right now. Coming back from this injury, I thought all the stars were aligning. Got the surgery, new team, fresh start. He's got DJ Moore. He had CMC. Everything was like, all right, it's fucking time. Unfortunately, Matt Rule, absolute moron, terrible
Yeah,
coach,
yeah, we can
screwing
agree on that.
over. Yeah, he's not helping the situation for sure. Not putting them in positions to win. 4th and 1. Like he was made some questionable calls last week on 4th and 1s. I remember that. So he's not helping. Baker's definitely had a bit of an off arm, so I think we're just gonna have to go ahead with Davis here. Um, Davis can make some pretty good long throws, and a couple long bumps to Cooks, and we're laughing, right? So
All right. So
but that's we're gonna get the rookies game, or sorry, the sophomore is gonna get his first start. Oh
there you
no,
go.
he started for us 2 weeks ago. Sorry, but yes, he will
But
be starting for us.
supplanted Baker as your number two quarterback. I think
Yes,
that's safe
yes.
to say.
Davis Mills has
Yeah.
moved up the depth chart. He is our super flex.
You heard it here, folks. Davis Mills better than Baker Mayfield. Big acquisition in the offseason for you guys. I don't know how it's turned out so far, but you got rid of Cortland Sutton and
Yep.
Young Ho Koo, I believe it's pronounced Young Wei. But they kind of laughed. They thought, well, hey, the captains are only getting Sutton back. But if we look at fantasy points right now, total scored for the year, Aaron Jones 56 points, not bad. Cortland Sutton 52 points. So I think that's a pretty fair trade for both teams. What do you like about Aaron Jones, and what do you like about the captains, and why are you always willing to do trades with them? Because Steve is such a nice guy.
I think Steve is a fair guy, typically to do trades with.
Great
I
trade
don't think,
value. Yeah.
yeah, he's fair. He's logical. Some other guys, I'm not going to name them. They took over a team this year. Not going to name anyone. Ali can, but like, those kind of guys just think that all their players, piss excellence, right? And unfortunately, some of their guys get overvalued. And but Steve's a fair guy, understands, we both got to try and feel good about this trade. And I think we did. We wanted an extra guy in RB room just in case Sarkwan had a slow start, which he has certainly not. He's our number one RB. And then I think Sutton filled a spot that you needed, which is that receiver. And I think we're both got it, need filled, and I think we're both happy about it.
Yeah, holes filled all over the place for sure, as you are quite familiar with. Just want to touch on the tight end before we look at the previous week, get into your matchup as well this coming week. You decided to go with Noah Fant, Hunter Henry, and Jonas Smith. Not often you see two tight ends from the same team, as well as a tight end on a very bad team. So a little bit behind that, kind of $350 you guys have tied up, almost 400 in your tight end room with a combined 38 or 40 points. Not very much there out of three guys. What's the process on it? Did you and Zach talk about that? Was that you wanted it to
No,
be a
I think
weakness
if you
going into the
remember
season?
at the draft, Zach wasn't actually there. Kind of a coward play.
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah, he's a
remember
little bit
that.
of a bitch,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, he's never
Fortunately,
anywhere actually.
no. His girlfriend's got him under the leash, and unfortunately, Das did not make it up to Edmonton, so he wasn't there.
Oh, yeah,
He
because
had
because of his cripple
his
syndrome for
abilities.
sure.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And he had a couple of Bud Light limes, and just much like Evan, you have one or two of those 4% beers, and all of a sudden you're throwing down money at guys that we don't necessarily need, like Mike Davis. And then we end up, funny enough, Steve, this was actually our tight end room last year as well. And Hunter Henry and Jonnu were both on 1 year deals last year as well. So we re-signed them. I
Oh,
can't
wow. So
speak
you
why.
you didn't need to keep both of them.
No,
You had the
and
option.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. I don't know how.
Okay.
Uh, Noah Fant, that that was arguable at the time. I mean, he was on Denver. We did not know this was a year before the whole Russ thing,
Yeah.
and Noah Fant was a genetic freak and has just been terribly used by all his coaches. The guy is a beast and is just not being used for what he's meant for, which is scoring touchdowns and getting yards.
Well, let's hope. I mean, at least you got three to choose from. Probably neither of them or any of them are going to be a good option, but not a bad way to end the conversation on a bit of a fart of a note coming from your tight end room led by Noah Fart. Okay, let's move into this season. Obviously, we'll leave the past in the past. People probably didn't want to listen to that for this long. You're 3-1. You just took over the lead from Gronks, your nemesis, your rival. You got a 2-game win streak going. You get the second most, points for in the American division. What did you like? We're going to skip the first couple of weeks, going into your week last week to put you into that 3-1 position. You had a game against Ev, and it was, I mean, never in doubt, right? Like going up against that joke of a
Yeah,
team
I mean,
was, yeah,
he made it closer than it should have been for sure. I mean, let's be real. I don't think anyone expected F to get over 100 points even. So,
sure.
we'll give him props. Credit where credit's due. Evan, you did something. You showed up, and at least you kind of punched us in the mouth a little bit. Overall, the better team did win. I mean, we just had some outstanding days. I mean, Austin Eckler. What do I need to say about that guy? When his coach decides to use him, he pays off every time. And
Now, do you think just on that, because he was about the only one that really scored, he's the only person on your team that scored over 20 points except for Burrow. Um, if you don't get the 3 touchdowns, the 31 points from Eckler, I don't think you guys win this week. Like, did that cross your mind at all? You could have lost to Evan. Was that at
uh,
all?
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit worried come Monday.
Okay.
I knew. I think it was Brady Ball that went off there and kind of made it a little bit
Yeah,
closer than
40
I had
points.
hoped.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If we had started Mills, that would have given us a little bit extra ground. So another reason why he's getting to start this week. But luckily, Kittle, uh, with that injury to Trent Williams, he's being used as a left tackle basically. So his fantasy value is 0.
Yeah.
So
Horrible, horrible pick at tight end, George Kittle. Absolutely.
yes, and so he's got a lot of money invested in that. So it's good to see that he's wasting more money. I think he still has Gronkowski's roster, to be honest with you. So
Yeah.
that
And
guy's
Beasley's still on his roster as well. We don't want to forget that. That was great,
no,
great
yeah,
cap management by Evan. Um, so a couple of retired guys there. Yeah. Well, no, it's no wonder you guys beat him. I mean, take it easy on the kid
yeah,
next time.
yeah. He's got
Um,
Gardner Minshew on his roster. Just want to point that out as well.
that's right.
So
Yeah, it's a star-studded roster that you guys almost lost
oh,
to.
and Odell. There we go. Perfect.
So, so it took you to 3-1. It actually took you up to third place in the power rankings. You're running at a 90% efficiency. Who makes the decisions? You guys are not leaving points on your bench like some of these other teams. You're getting full value out of your team. That's got to be you, right?
So was it last week? Yeah, so the week before this last one here, we were debating. I think I asked you even. I said more Lockett, and I said my gut tells me Lockett's going to be the guy, and we put in Lockett, and look what happened.
Against
Okay,
my wishes, right? I think I did tell you to put DJ Moore in.
I think you said more. I
Yeah,
was saying Lockett,
yeah.
and Zach was saying more, and I said no. I feel like Lockett's it, and look what happened. Lockett killed it. I think he got 15 to 20 points, and Moore was very bang average. So. Um, you know, Zach's a great numbers guy. He's behind the books, but when you're on the stage, I'm out there with the mic. I'm the football guy. He's the brains. He makes the numbers work. I tell him what we need. I say, Zach, make this work. He makes it work, and that's why we're a good team.
He's just not the brains when he re-signs Smith and Hunter Henry on another 1-year deal from the same team.
No, when he's had
Okay.
a couple drinks, we do not trust him.
Those
We
Bud Light limes.
definitely, yeah. When he's at, but you know what? You mix some Vivans. You give him Vivans, and you give him some Bud Light limes, Steve. And honestly, you're going to get a DM from him at 2 o'clock on a Wednesday asking for a trade of God knows what. And so that's where you got to be careful with that guy. Is he is an absolute liability sometimes.
Well, hey, when you're a numbers guy, you work in that corporate world, you're doing anything you can to stay sharp, right?
Exactly,
Sometimes too
exactly.
sharp.
Sometimes he needs his release, and that is making trades in this league that sometimes even baffle me. I gotta be honest. Some of the offers he's sending out, I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" But hey, you know what? A good kid, and a little bit on the spectrum, but overall, good kid.
Hey, you gotta have something wrong if you're good with numbers. That's the way I look at it. Let's jump ahead to next week. You got a chance. Your rivals are up against Italian Stallions. That's the Gronks. You're taking on James. A
Yeah.
win and a Gronk's loss that puts you a full game clear of your rivals. Um, First of all, I want to hear what that would mean to you to be ahead of them, not just tied with them in the standings, not on a tiebreaker. And let's talk a little bit about your match with James here. You're going up against Cooper Rush again and Matt Ryan, but he's also got CMC. Patterson, unfortunately, got hurt this year. Hawkinson with the big game. Like there are some explosive players on James's team. What do you like about this week? And first of all, what would it mean to go clear if Gronks do lose to the Italian Stallions?
Well, first off, I want to say I think we're all a little shocked that Gronks are where they are. I mean, I gotta give them a little bit of
Yeah,
props. They definitely
yeah.
have a better team than last year, but I mean, the bar was that low, right? Like it was easy to go up. But I think they're just as shocked as we are. As you can tell in the group chat, they acted like they had not been there before.
They missed the playoffs
And
last year. I just want to clarify that.
yes,
They
yes,
did
they
not
were in
make
the
the
toilet.
playoffs.
Well, they were in the shit bowl. So
Right. Okay.
I
The
mean
wrong kind of
that
playoffs.
is their championship.
Yeah.
And so I think they had acted like they had not been there before. It was very clear to see. Zach and I were back in the spot where we should be. And it's nothing new to us. We're gonna act like it's just another day at the office because it is. It is just another day at the office right now. We're early in the season. Not gonna get ahead of ourselves. However, look at who's in our division here. I mean, Gronk's, rivals. They got one on us. I'll give them that, but not too worried. Mike's daddy. I mean, let's look at that RB room. That's gonna get him in the butt soon.
That is not
Uh,
good. Yeah. You can't just keep relying on Josh Allen and Travis Kelsey.
Yeah, exactly. Like that guy is completely relying on the team that Mike and Steve put together. So I'm not too worried about him. James, that guy cannot get any luck with his injuries. And you know, I, I am a little bit worried about some of his guys for sure. James, you're welcome for Cooper Rush, by the way. That was a free fourth round pick for us.
Good bit of
Um,
business that, yeah, off the waiver
yeah,
wire into a fourth round pick.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Not hurting our
That was a
salary cap.
Zach. That was a Zach move.
Uh, yeah, that was a little bit of Zach on a Vyvanse without the beer, and when he's on the Vyvanse without the beer, he can put some good stuff together. So I gotta give him some props to that. Stu, I just gotta ask, what the hell are you doing, man? I don't know what your season is, but I'm not too worried about him. And I
Nobody
mean,
knows.
no, I don't think Stu even knows what he's doing really this season. And I mean, Hildy, 1 of 3, kind of tough, but I mean, look at your points for, and there's a reason you are where you are. So I mean,
No, you guys are projected to score, if the lineups don't change, you're projected to score the most points this week by one, but still a total of 161.48 projected. James, now he's got a 0 in his lineup because of the Patterson injury, but he's only projected at 113. So even if he fills that running back role with 20 points, you're still far and away the favorites here. Is that a tough position to be in? Do you like being the favorites? Do you prefer to be the underdog?
You know what? I do like being underdog because we were that last year and we proved everyone wrong. And now there's new expectations for us because we are the reigning champions. And I think it's just everyone's coming for us because they want to beat us, and that's fair. You know what? When you're the top dog, that's what's expected. And so I'm not too worried. We got some great matchups this week, and I know that one of Eckler, Barkley, Jones, they're going to get 2 or 3 touchdowns this week, no problem. Burrow's going to have another day in the office. And you know what? I believe in Mills. I think he's going to do something good for us. And you know what? Between you and me, there's a little bit of insider here. We might have something big coming before tomorrow's game. I don't want to say it yet because it's not for sure confirmed, but there could be a little bit of a change up.
All right. Well, let's watch the trades and acquisitions page here on the website and see if we can get a little glimpse of that move before.
It's going to be something that's going to shake the league, I think. Not like our rivals again, who made a awful trade. Pretty much gave away their firstborn child for Jonathan Taylor, who's now out tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, good move,
So
good business on
good
their part for
business,
sure.
right?
Glad
They
you
had
brought
no
that
wide
up.
receivers, got rid of more of them, and then now Stu actually has a chance against these guys, and they're sitting there with their thumbs with their butts, going, "Holy crap! Maybe that wasn't a good trade to make." Because now they're without an RB1 tomorrow. They have Chubb and Lamar who seem to bail them out every week, but eventually that's going to level out a little bit, and reality will come back and
Yeah,
knock them down a bit.
these points, the efficiency they're leaving on the bench. I mean, they say it's depth, but that's going to bite them. And this might be the week that does. So, hey, we ran a little bit long though. Let's bring this first segment of Commish's Corner to a close here. Mike, Tank, I want to thank you for your time. Glad to have you as the first guest. You're fun, you're engaging. Your partner is not, but I won't put that blame on you for that. And wish you good luck in your matchup against James this week, but I don't wish you good luck for the rest of the season.
Fair enough, Steve. Pleasure to be on the podcast. I hope we could be on again this soon. Maybe with my teammate, or maybe with a little hot topic with maybe Ali Khan or Stu, or even our rivals, and just knock some sense into them. That could be a good debate to have. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. Hopefully, to see in playoffs if your points for improves.
I'm first in my
I mean,
division alone by myself, so I'll be fine.
I
Thank you
noticed
for
that.
your
I noticed
concern,
that.
though. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, your points against is pretty nice. You got Nav, who is now pretty much putting his grandma in at wide receiver. So, you know what, wheelchair or not, Nav, you might win. We'll see. But I don't expect much from your division either. I mean, let's look at the teams you got there, Steve. Not much.
Hey,
So
well, that's why we play the games. You can only play the teams in front of you, and every other cliche that I could possibly throw at you. That is going to wrap this segment of the Commish's Corner. Tank, thank you for your time. Good luck this week against James.
absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure.